I think long-term goal is how do you enable brands to almost like set up, manage their entire, distributed storefronts, almost like think of it as a headless CMS with kind of like a Zapier and Canva kind of plugged into it. So it's like a content pool in a Zapier and a Canva. That's how we think long-term.
Kausambi Manjita, it is good to have you here in eCommerce. How are you doing today? How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling really pumped up and really excited to finally be talking. We've sort of had this whole dance going on, like when will we? But here we are.
I've had more intricate tangos. We did have to reschedule it once, but we've had other people that we've had to reschedule 3 times, and one person we're still like chasing after. So it's it's going to be impossible not to want to talk about that when we do finally have our recording. All of those emergencies and like he was in Texas, by the way, and Texas got hit with a snowstorm. And so of all the things that I wasn't expecting to be an obstruction, Texas getting flooded, like blizzarded out, wasn't one of them. Anyways, it's great to have you here. I'm excited to learn about what you have to offer. We noticed as we were discussing that there's a lot of commonalities between what Debutify does and what you do. So that takes me to my opening question. To tell us what it is you do. What are you up to these days?
It's been a little more over a year, I think, a year and a half to be exact. And it's been super exciting because when we started thinking about Mason and this whole, we spoke about it, like you call yourself a no-code evangelist, cause and why. And I think one of the primary reasons is that for me, it was always that if you have to set up a store online earlier, and I've worked in the whole world where supply chain was like an OMS and a WMS and all of that stuff, which was so hard, and it was so hard to be online. And then Shopify came and changed everything, right? And it's so much easier to set up your store backend and all of that online. And you see that in Debutify too, right? It's getting harder and harder to set up experiences online. How do you really scale, manage, do all the changes on a day-to-day, really be that business that is has a one-on-one connect with your customers? And I think that was my question. And over this last 1.5 years, the second question was also like, will people really care about something like that? Like, do they know that's a problem, right? Do they realize that if you don't stand out as a brand, if you don't have a one-on-one connect, and if you don't have access to technology, you're not an Amazon. You're converting at a 2% and a 3%, and Amazon's converting at 14%, right? Mm-hmm. That's because of the lack of access to technology, right? And if we do bring you technology, would you love it? And I think that's the last 1.5 years has been very exciting. What we have been up to at Mason is how do you enable, I think long-term goal is how do you enable brands to almost like set up, manage their entire, distributed storefronts, almost like think of it as a headless CMS with kind of like a Zapier and Canva kind of plugged into it. Mm-hmm. So it's like a content pool in a Zapier and a Canva. That's how we think long-term we would be. But right now, what we help is with specific use cases. And one of them is how do you automate your store updates, right? Like your inventory, pricing, new products that are being launched. It's so hard for you to constantly be on top of everything and make sure that it's getting launched and updated. So we make it easy with no-code automation. So users get a bunch of playbooks. They can, click and choose based on their needs. It could be a sale that they're running. It could be a set of new products that they're launching. And all the updates keep happening without them having to really do it manually one by one, right? So, it's been exciting. Great year.
I have to say that there are certain episodes I'm glad I didn't record when I was just starting out and I was only just beginning to learn about e-commerce. I'm glad that I've been able to graduate from 101 and I feel I'm now in the 102 class. But describing some of the other pieces of software especially stuck out to me because a lot of these other softwares are all working on maybe unintentionally together to try to provide the ideal experience, not just for the customer, but also for the seller. So you mentioned Zapier, which is an automation software. You mentioned Canva, which is a design software, and all of these, all these services are all looking to it's not that they're looking to make things easier so that, the labor goes down. But what I did notice is that it helps to redirect the labor so that people are using their precious and vital energy to focus on what it is they need to focus on, and then a lot of that ends up tying into marketing.
Yep.
So what we plan to do, and for those of you who are dedicated audio listeners, we're doing a screen share today. We don't do it every episode, but we're doing it this time. So we're going to get into that because this being a largely a visual service, but there's back into it too. It's something that I'm looking forward to because it's something that I want to understand to that level of intuition. But before that, what stuck out to me was you were describing the difficulty of running a store before Shopify opened up the market and made things more accessible. And I actually would like to hear a little bit more about your experience in that, because what I was wondering about was the ability to actually run a store that people can transact on. But I think the even more significant concern was trust. Whether people actually found that this online store was even a legitimate operation. And there's something about having a large company like Shopify legitimizing the idea of transacting online.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very interesting perspective to it, right? And I remember my elder sister, she at one point was like really excited. I want to run a jewelry subscription thing, right? And this, I'm talking about the early Facebook days. So she had like a Facebook page, and she was living in Shanghai at that point in time. So amazing, all that great stuff that you get from Korea and China and everything all coming together in Shanghai. She would collect like great jewelry pieces, subscription, there she is, boom, on Facebook. It just wouldn't convert because in the early days of Facebook, people are not necessarily sure, one, that yes, you are a Facebook page I'm like liking and loving and commenting on everything. But, the checkout process was painful. Everybody wouldn't have a PayPal or something of that sort. And how do I trust? Like, how can I track that subscription is coming to me, like that bag of goodies is coming to me? Like, you need to have the tracking page, right? Where are your customer reviews? Like I bought something from her, and I remember her making a big splash page post about it, right? But because it was so important, all of these things that we just take for granted in e-commerce, it's actually so many different things, right? It's not just that list page. It's actually your entire unit, like all the things behind it. It's your shipping and fulfillment. It's your social proofing. All of that have to come together. And, it's easy to say that I'll just put something on Craigslist and it will sell. Yes, it does, but it's not gonna scale, right? And I think that was the problem in the early days, right? It was not impossible to still have your own website, but there's a lot of things around it which makes it look professional. With Shopify, something like a Shopify simplifies because it's all packaged together. Your order success emails, right? Your tracking pages, all of that. It just makes it, legitimizes things quite a bit. I do agree.
I still have definitely a bunch of questions, and I feel like none of them are really worth asking until we have a look at at Mason. So I've given you Screenshare permission, so take it away.
So what I'm going to share is our app on the Shopify App Store. Mason's like a whole platform. There's a bunch you can do. The Shopify App Store app is simple, and then I'll get started with that. So, it's called Mode Magic when you buy Mason, and when you install it on your App Store, this is something that you would land in with. And as I said, there are these different components, right? There's the Zapier and the Canva, right? So let's talk about the use case before we go into the Zapier and the Canva. So when you have a store, one of the most, I would say, annoying things that you have to do as a store owner, as a brand owner, and as the team grows, as an e-commerce manager, etc., is there's hundreds of different reasons that I need to call out on my products, like on my different products. And the simple things are around inventory, which is it's running low on stock, or it's back in stock, or it's fresh new. These are all things that you do on a very regular basis, as you can see on the left side. These are all your inventory sort of playbooks, right? And you do that on a day-to-day. Then you have your sale kind of playbooks, which are like, hey, this is on sale, this is on discount, and I want to run my sale only from 5th to 7th and not beyond, right? So there's all this sale price kind of call outs and updates that you do. And the third interesting set is actually how, almost like you can call it customer behavior, how users, other shoppers, in a way, sneakily putting it, I would say, social proof, right? What are the best sellers? What are the top trending products? What are hot sellers? All of that, right? So there's just a bunch of like different things that you need to do. And if you talk to an average, e-commerce team, they would say that, hey, all of these are different, scripts or teams. Either an operator or a custom automation script that's running in my store, trying to do one or more of these. Right. And imagine the pain of actually having to manage so many different automation scripts and manage so many different people to do these different things. And then the more interesting problem over there is, how do I keep finding these new use cases? Because, for example, if you can see over here, if a new product, I'm uploading a new set of products, I want to mark them as coming soon. But when I inward my inventory, I want to mark them as new arrivals, right? That's a playbook, right? That's a custom journey. How do I even set that sort of a journey, right? So these are right now really problematic and painful for teams, because these are all like almost fragmented different scripts and people that you have to use. What with Mason, our goal is that, hey, you don't have to, one, of course, there's automation and all of that, but even before that, this is your, almost like your, GitHub for all these different plays and journeys that you need to implement in your store. And as we keep hearing more interesting use cases and journeys from teams, we keep expanding. So it's almost like your library of like expert advice. Like, these are the top things that you need in your store, right? And then we went and made it even simpler. So you don't just discover it, but you can literally in one click actually start using that, right? So you can say like, hey, any products in the last 7 days that was marked, that is, it has zero inventory, mark them as coming soon, but I also want to call coming soon in a different way. I want to call it out like this, right? So here, that's where, you start, you have your playbooks, but it's also editable, but it's one click. You don't need a developer. You don't need an expert. You don't need a designer to come together and tell you what to do or how to make it look. You can choose, very Canva-like interface coming over here. You can say that I want it large, small, whatever. And then on the other hand, a very Zapier-like simple, interface on your left, which just helps you choose the criteria around which you want to run that automation. So it's design and on Canva, which is Canva-ish sort of designs. And then you have your entire Zapier sort of automation and your store, because all these products are literally from your store, right? So this actually, Mason, runs through your store, your inventory, your pricing, and it keeps looking. And every time it meets the criteria, it'll just make sure it's always marked as coming soon or few left or whatever it is that you have. So it's all connected, it's all together, and it's so simple. And it's so simple to run your everyday business with something of this sort.
Great. So so if I'm understanding this correctly, so I'm managing my product inventory on Shopify. That's where I have to do it. And in doing so, these automations here are set up to identify who's going to go where. So if I change the inventory to zero, and then the out of stock or the coming soon recognizes that and says, okay, now I'm going to automatically place this badge onto it, rather than you have to go in and manually set all of these yourselves.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Now somebody who maybe, they're selling 2 products to their whole store, they'll feel inclined to handle that on their own. But you have to think what happens when you start scaling your inventory. The next thing you know, you have hundreds of products, right? In the, as you mentioned, jewelry or in the fashion niche. And this is the kind of thing that can save a person a day's worth of work if they're, if rather than having to deal with that manually, they just have that all automated through.
Yeah. That's a great point, because actually what we have seen is that a typical store would probably, a store that's anywhere between a 2 million to a 30 million GMV would actually be saving 40 hours a week, because this is actually a lot of work. It's not just one play, right? It's not just your inventory, but it's also your sale. You're running your discounts, right? It's also your, what are my best sellers and my trending products? So it's inventory is just one part of the problem. It's your inventory, your price, your top sellers, your new arrival. So it's all of those different plays. So it's literally, we've seen now over this last year that it saves about 40 hours a week. And for a very average store, it would save about 200K a year, right? So that's the kind of things that you're talking about. But to also add on, automation's there, but there's also the manual part of it. So for teams who don't, not yet ready for automation, they can literally also do it manually. Again, the store is completely connected, so you can find whatever products you have in your catalog. You can do what you to the entire product on the different parts of your store, all of that, right? So there's also the manual. And now we're expanding out to different use cases. So of course, like these were product callouts and highlights were the initial, set of things that you could do. But now we're also expanding out into different use cases that you can do. How-tos and product guides are another big driver in your product details pages. So typically it helps you convert so much faster from product details to add to cart. If instead of reading through miles and miles of what this product is about, you can quickly see like it has, a GMO free and use it, apply. If it's a beauty product, it's like step 1, 2, 3, use it this way.
Right.
These are the ingredients, etc. So we're seeing great love on this new set of features too. So hopefully as we go along, we'll keep expanding out into more important things that help you convert better in your store.
Right, and I think too that a niche like beauty products, you wouldn't want the interface or the user experience to come across as cold and indifferent. The idea of actually adding in your aesthetics, adding in your color choices, allowing more of your brand to participate in the promotion process, in the story selling process, in the guide process, which is. It's helpful, it's utility in nature, but it is also part of the marketing to indicate this is how it's used. We understand how this works. We're not just going to give this to you and let you figure it out on your own.
Absolutely. We've seen stuff like this actually in our case studies do better conversions in your product details page, amp it up by 30 basis points, which will like increasing it by 30%. So definitely helps.
I wanted to ask about the bestseller automation in particular. So how do I set the parameters for that? Is it that I just say whatever are my 5 best selling products, they automatically get the bestseller badge?
Yeah, no, it can be per category. So in each of my categories in my store, the top 3 or top 5 or top 7 products can be marked as bestseller. So you can choose the category. You can say it all time, or you can say it within the last 30 days. So the 3 basic criteria: either it's all products or category-based products, how many of the top products, and in what time range am I looking at?
And then if I wanted to go maybe into more specific collections, so just for instance, imagine like a home living store, they might have, they might separate it by room, living room, bedroom, washroom.
Yes.
And so I would want to say, what are my best sellers within washrooms, but I don't want that to be affected by what's performing in the bedroom or in the living room space.
Yep. Absolutely. So that's what categories and collections. So you can choose it either by narrow it by category or collection.
One other one that stuck out to me, this is more like a confirmation question, but with badges, because you mentioned Canva, and a lot of that I can see coming through in the aesthetic choices. But are people able to design their own badges as well, upload them if they're very particular about their theme or their niche?
Yes. So couple of things over there. There is a make a badge feature, which basically means that you can, and maybe I'll just share my screen as I go along and explain that. So there are all these, basic, all the possible shapes that you typically use in a badge. So we have all of that. You can select what you need. You can create your own, or you can upload some of the teams which are a little bigger. the Plus teams, for example, they usually have an in-house designer who's probably used a Figma or a Canva to design a suite of all the tags, but they don't want to, do all these ad hoc single script automation. So we've seen them actually use upload a badge, and then they sort of, consolidate or work with a design partner to have their tags and their badges, and then they can just upload it over here, and they're good to go.
And I think it's worth pointing out too that these templates aren't picked at random too. These are, as you say, these are based off what people tend to commonly use. So even if I were to look through that and I would say, oh, okay, you know which one that I like? I like the one that looks like those seal of approval stickers that they used to put on Nintendo games with the triangles pointing. Yeah, that one. That one sticks up to me too. So even just looking at that, it can spark a creativity in my own mind. I wouldn't need to draw that, right? That's sort of drawn for me. So that's the kind of time-saving method. I mean, I could download it, put it onto Photoshop or GIMP, maybe do my own specific texture, upload it back up, and I'm good to go. So, that certainly helps to make it more clear in my mind. But you've mentioned case studies and things that you've noticed so far, and I always want to give an opportunity to maybe highlight a case study or two. Client confidentiality in full effect, of course. But I'd love to hear a story or two about some of the sellers, some of the users of your software that really made an impact.
I think for me, a couple of things when you're asking that, two things like pop up in my head. The first one is I've worked in e-commerce in some way or the other, as I mentioned, for quite a while now, and I've seen how if you add more visuals to your product details pages, so and you see that in Amazon, right? Nowadays, if you notice, it's all about all your customer reviews, all your product details, or the USPs about your product, like 100% cotton, everything. All of that amped up and pulled out into your carousel of images, rather than you in an Amazon page, you hardly have to go and read everything, right? They've really optimized based on each category. And when I was working in the Walmart subsidiary before I started doing my own thing. At that point, we did notice that, hey, when you kind of amp up all of that, it improves conversions, XYZ, basis points, and all of those, good stuff. But seeing that impact with, a store which has found product, like it's a brand, it's an upcoming brand in North America. It's found product market fit. They're doing upwards of 10 million in GMV already. And seeing that improvement on their add to carts, before and after, was such a high, because it's like, you see all these things when you're working in a large MNC and you are doing all the stuff that you're doing. But when you see someone who's at a 10 and it can actually become a 12 or a 15 or a 30 because of some of the things that you're doing with them, I think that's a different kind of high. So we did see uplift of 35% add to carts on their product details page to add to cart, because of them really using a lot of the guides and the how-tos, and also using multiple badges on a single product. So not just like calling out 10% discount, but saying it's GMO, vegan, and I think I forgot, single origin, I think, something of that sort. Yeah. So all that good sustainable stuff, right? So it was great. So that's one case study that definitely stands out in my head. The second was in terms of more productivity uplift, that interesting place where, in fact, just 2 days back, I was chatting with that team on support, and they'd come over the weekend, and I love taking up support chats. It's very important for founders to stay very close to what is really happening with the teams, with the users who are using it. And me and my co-founder, we'd like make sure we take up every possible support chat given our time constraints. And in fact, he was like, I was just so worried. The founder was on the other side was mentioning, I was so worried about using so many different custom automation scripts, because I use Photoshop and I have some of these designs, but I didn't want to maintain, ungainly custom automation scripts to do all of these for the next, I don't know. And when I scale my business, those scripts won't scale with it, right? They won't do anymore. And I'll have to redo everything. If my UI changes, I have to redo everything. There's so much of all of that. And something like this has just taken away that stress away from me because I don't have to worry about it. You guys will worry about it. And I just have to, worry about how my brand, the brand story that I want to tell. I think these are, and it's, of course, it saves up so much of his time and his team's time. It's an early team, 5 people, and they definitely don't want to be tagging every product, analyzing data sheets, and then saying, these are my top products, and now tag them, right? It's too much work. So so these are 2 things that come top of my mind.
So one, I guess, philosophy that I've maintained for some time now is that I think the best way to transition from manual to automation is to always do something manually first before automating it, just to understand what is the exact process. If I'm about to have something done 1,000 times while I'm not looking, I think I want to know what it is. So what I'm wondering is if there's instances where something has just been automated, from the get-go, and it went fine, and there wasn't really like a pressing concern to see the steps, lay it out, or have to do the steps ourselves.
Yeah, I think when you look at, I'm more not going to just narrowly give the example of what we do, but I think a lot of times when you look at e-commerce in general, I think we underestimate the power of what reaching out to customers or updates that we share with customers, etc. Like how making that instantaneous and transparent and real time really changes the game in terms of conversions. And even as I would say, app builder and product maker myself, I've seen across the years, right? Like you cannot be fast enough when it comes to responding or giving some information to someone who's using a product on the other side. And it's exactly the same for e-commerce teams, right? And the people do worry about it a lot when it comes to, hey, they bought the product, now I got to send out order confirmation and all of that. But people tend to forget, and teams, brands do tend to kind of sometimes forget that the store is also another, I would say, communication channel, right? And if you are on an Instagram and you have an ad running, and you're saying, hey, this is a great t-shirt, right? And I love it, and I tap on it, or and I land into into the shopping funnel, and all of a sudden the size that I need is not there, or the color that you showed me on the ad is not there. These are huge drop-off points, right? These are points when I would totally lose trust in the kind of communication that you're putting out with me, to me on Instagram or whatever else channel. And I think people tend to forget that ad is not the end, outcome. It's actually what happens because people tap on the ad, they come to your store, information's not there, they're still going to drop off. So I think these sort of communications, it doesn't matter whether you can't do it manually. It's not possible. If something's running out of stock, you can't go run and change your ad, right? You can't manually keep track of which color is there or not and really keep changing the status back in your store. So I think it's more about because your store is online and you're 24/7 online, and there is customers coming in from any channel and they're interacting with your products, there's something happening in your business. Your inventory is changing, your products are running in and out of stock, or they're getting into bestsellers or not, right? So these are things that are happening. This data is just sitting there, and you don't necessarily, and it's really hard to analyze all that data and do a lot of manual steps sometimes. So these things, it just works from day one. Even if you automate it, you don't necessarily, as long as you understand that I have data, I have to wait a lot to analyze. And by the time I analyze and do something with that data, it's stale data. The data is old, right? So I think when it comes to communication based on data, based on what's happening in your data, you can never be too fast. So automation is definitely something that will work from day one. You don't necessarily have to do it manually. You can't.
Right. Yeah. And to summarize that, I certainly wouldn't think somebody needs to do it hundreds, if not thousands of times to make it. It's just like a couple of times here or there just to get it. But yeah, I totally agree. If for people to reach the levels that we aspire and encourage people to reach, it's just not doable. But you brought up it's a particular scenario, but I think it's worth honing in on, because there's always going to be that gray area of information that we're not going to be able to catch, right? It's not like every time somebody sees an ad for a product, comes to the website, finds the product isn't there. It's not as if they're going to, maybe they'll say something. It's possible that they will, but in our, in this, the age of TikTok, people are probably going to just go do something else. Like they're already like unconsciously opening up another tab or checking something else on their phone. They've forgotten what even the issue is. So what exactly does a person do to know as soon as possible that they need to take this ad down? And just so I'm understanding it perfectly, is this something that Mason is able to assist with?
Yeah, that's something that's coming up. The platform already supports it. That's something that we are also, we are early stages of testing it out with a few beta teams, and then we'll be putting it out for more. Right now, as I said, the inventory automation, for example, that we were talking about, that something gets out of stock, mark it as out of stock, or if it's not trending, then put something else as trending and put it back in my store. So the publishing is directly available back in your store, but what's coming up is also publishing into your extended channels. So in your Insta shop or in your Facebook or into your Amazon catalog, etc. So these are things that are on the roadmap. Some of them we are early days of testing out with beta teams. But yes, eventually the goal is that entire shopping funnel, you don't have to worry about updating a lot of these creatives and campaigns and your communications all throughout consistently. You'll just have to hopefully turn on, set it up, set up your design, set up your guidelines, set up this is how it should look like, and then kind of not worry about it.
Initially, this was a question that I was going to ask, but as we've gone through the conversation, the need to ask it has somewhat dissipated. And so now it's really more of a comment. So the limiting factor before being able to run a store on Shopify, there's trust and there's accessibility. Now Shopify has, I think, solved those problems by and large, or at least the trust part. Yes, accessibility is an ongoing battle, because in order for somebody to be able to, be participating in the market, it's not enough to just run a Shopify store. There, as you say, you have to be connected to other channels for user-generated content, for social media, for even just for basic customer service, running ads and all of that. So, how would you summarize the challenge of accessibility versus what problems somebody can solve, with Mason versus the kind of problems that they cannot solve if they're just using Shopify?
Yeah, I think the primary thing would be just your, when you think about your store, it's not just a store layout, but it's your store content, right? And it's a lot of information. And when it comes to e-commerce, that information has to be repackaged into a designed information, right? So I think that's the gap today. And of course, if you're using Canva separately, Canva is helping you solve like the accessibility for design problem, right? But that is not connected to your store, unfortunately. And so when it comes to, you have your store on Shopify, you probably use the Shogun or something on Shopify to create your layout. And then what? Then every day, all these updates have to happen. And they have to happen in a certain design philosophy, in a certain design guideline, in a certain branding, right? And that's where the problem also starts shifting to a more composition. How do I compose all of these? And how do I do it on the fly? Like Canva can solve the composition problem for one, but hey, I have, even if I have 20 products, right? Now, if I have to just update them as bestsellers, it's 20 aesthetics that has to be taken care of. So I think that's the gap in the market today, is that it's your CMSs and your storefronts, right? They're kind of like not connected also with a design editor, right? Like that's the gap. And that's where I think like start seeing a lot of interesting products coming out. There are already quite a few interesting things that I see happening, which are around, hey, how do you update your product catalog images to look better, etc. Right? So similar, and then you see in the ads world, you would have heard about this dynamic creative optimization products and stuff like that. So there are bits and pockets of those things coming together, but I think it'll just become more and more important because online it's all about if you're running an e-commerce store, it's so much about visuals and standing out.
I also wonder too, what's your take on whether or not the challenge for sellers is having to be more reactive or proactive. And what I mean by that is, if I were to, let's just say I just decide today to set up an online store, and I'm inundated with all of these different channels that if I'm not using, I'm harming my own self-interest. Social media platforms, content platforms like YouTube. Some people say YouTube is social media. I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah, I can see it. It's broad enough that I'll accept that. And what happens is that I think it puts sellers in this constant reactive state to always have to meet the standards that are set by other sellers and the expectations that the customers have. Have you seen, or maybe I'm wrong, feel free to tell me if I'm wrong, but have you seen opportunity for sellers to start being more thought leaders and be more proactive and saying, you know what, this is an area, this is a platform, other people haven't considered using it as a way to sell, but we are actually so ahead of the curve that now we're going to be able to determine that the market will respond to this. So one example of that, I will say very recently, because I have been consumed by TikTok, is that I don't think TikTok set out to be a marketing platform. It set out to just be a way for people to be spied on, and also content too. But over time, it's turned into somewhat of a renaissance for sharing e-commerce information. All people have to do is just like point to like a bunch of different ideas. And so I think the sellers and the people who have taken initiative have actually transformed that platform into something more useful for this space. So that's one example that came to my mind. But how do you feel about the reactive, proactive nature of the market?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, right? Thank you. I think there's always, in every market, there's always the early adopters we are way more proactive, and then the others sort of follow, and then they become reactive, right? And I think with the pandemic, what we've seen is that like everybody's reacted, and they know that this whole e-commerce is not just a buzzword. Like that's just another D2C doesn't mean that I can't be on a marketplace. It just means my relationship with my customers have to be direct, right? I could be selling on Amazon or Facebook. That's irrelevant, right? I need to have a direct connection. So I think the how with the whole 2020, 2021, I see like at least the industry reacting and understanding that, hey, some of these jargons are not jargons. They're just philosophies of how you should evolve as a brand and evolve as retail, right? Omnichannel doesn't just mean omni-channel offline and online, but in online there are multiple channels, so you got to be there. It's digital omni-channel too. Then the second is that, hey, it's not just about now being omni-channel, but also how do I really manage my relationship with each of my customers, and so I see like the masses kind of adopting a lot more and reacting a lot more to understanding these specificities of e-commerce, omni-channel and direct to consumer, what it means, right? Like that the perspective has evolved. Where I think the gap still and the proactiveness is that, hey, now that I have to be on multiple channels, my storefronts spread out. Like maybe I'm also sending out as a young team and sending out updates about my products on WhatsApp too. In Asia, a lot of teams do that. They send out literally product catalogs on WhatsApp, right? But if I have to do that, right? If I have to manage so many channels online, right? Headless is important. I have to think that. But that's where the proactiveness, like teams who have VC funding, who are larger teams, who probably have come from an e-commerce background, they're aware and they are headless from day one, or they're at least moving in that direction. But a mass of the teams are still, I think, the access to technology and the understanding of technology is where the gap is. Like, yeah, headless, I don't know, like, do I really have to do that right now? I'll worry about it later. And I think a lot of it is also our fault, because it shouldn't be so hard to go headless, right? Like, that's where I think, like, for me, no code is so important, is that, hey, why does technology always start from a place of being so hard to implement? Like 6 month cycle, come on, like, who has the time? That team will rather worry about what they can do today than what ROI they'll get 6 or 8 months later. So I think that's why a lot of new things are very, only adopted by proactively by teams who have access to money, to funding, to tech. But I think it also lies on us as creators, as product creators, is that everything that is new, every new technology invention is always so difficult to implement, and it's not thought out from a layman's perspective. It's always thought out from somebody who will have to implement it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm somewhat of an outside observer when it comes to tech. It amazes me sometimes that, getting into podcasting as I did, it turns out I was ahead of the curve on that. I didn't see it coming, but I guess part of it is that there is an inert or an innate intuition for people who are technology minded, and there are frontiers people chasing those developments, and they get there's to me, being an early adopter in a lot of other areas is usually more of a punishment than a reward. Like, if somebody is an early adopter of a new product, or of a new device, I'm thinking very specifically of Apple in this case. The sooner they get it, the sooner they're unintentionally the guinea pigs and end up being the ones that are, submitting error reports and saying, I waited in line, it was cold, I had to Uber coffee over, and then now they're being punished for it. So I do think, and you're much more experienced in this space, so I would love to hear your take on it. But I do think that being an early adopter in tech is good if you have the inclination for it. But I guess the disconnect is then, how are these discoveries then disseminated across a much larger user base so that it's accessible and understandable? I've tried to explain cryptocurrency to my parents, and I explained to them that how a credit card transaction costs the credit card company money. Well, if a user just does a transaction, they use their resources, they get crypto out of it. And then my parents said, "Can you give us the simplified explanation of that?" And I said, "That was the simplified explanation." So trying to bridge that gap, I think, is the biggest challenge, because we want more people to adopt the technology so that it's more in use, and you get more feedback that way. But anyways, any take on that from your end?
Yeah, I think technologies evolve as a reaction to some trend, and I think that is where the technology space, technologists would do really well with having subject matter experts who can explain to other noobs like themselves, I guess, what that underlying trend is and why that technology is meaningful for that trend. And I think that's where the disconnect usually starts happening, is that, of course, anything early, any new, let's think about a brand, like a new set of, health bars. Early days, you are going to get feedback. You're going to iterate, and you're going to work with your customers to make that health bar really yummy and the best 5 flavors and all of that. It's exactly the same with tech products, right? It's the same. In the early days, there'll be issues. You'll work with your early customers. You'll fix it. Every new creation, I guess, is an iterative process, and it will continue to be. The problem with technology is that everybody doesn't speak that language. Like, it's such disparate language. Technology doesn't speak a business or a layman's language, right? Like, so if it is headless, what's the underlying trend? It's just that there's so many channels and people are buying on TikTok. I gotta be on TikTok. Like, that's headless. That's it. That's what headless is all about. You gotta be on TikTok. You gotta be on Instagram. You gotta also have your own website or web store, right?
Sorry, I'm just gonna. I very rarely need to interrupt, but for me, I need to hear it, like the Webster's or the e-commerce Webster's definition of headless, because I don't quite. I don't know. I keep going to people with their heads chopped off, which I think that's kind of like I'm
I
on the
know.
right track.
I agree. I agree. And that even the names would help, right? Who coined the term headless? It was clearly not someone who was a business guy or someone who was a brand owner. I'm sure it was someone who was a technologist who didn't even think of the connotation that headless would bring to them. In fact, recently, it's so funny. Someone was telling me about, hey, it's tailless. And I said, oh, no, let's not go there. Let's not go tailless and headless. What is it in between, right? What is that chunk of flesh in between? Oh my god, it was so weird. But anyway, terrible analogy apart. I mean, it's nothing but you have so many different stores or store presence. It's like I have a pop-up store and I have a store in Market Street, and I have a store in in the financial district, right? I have all these 3 different stores, and I also have a little bit of a, I would say, booth in, let's say, the best mall, right? Now that's literally that's my brand in 3 different places. It's I have to make sure that all the information across these 3 different places are similar. Whatever is the inventory, information that needs to be communicated over there. If someone places an order in store 1, I need to know what's happening. Do I have enough in my warehouse to actually supply that and all of that, right? So that's literally what it is. That it's just that when you have multiple channels on which you kind of end up selling, how do you make sure that your entire information that you have is being translated into the right content and visuals and distributed across these different channels, right? It's just that instead of it being a monolithic, I have to make for this, for my store, I have to make a banner that is 1200 into 400. The next day I have to put the same information on Instagram. Who the hell will now make a 1:1, right? That's the beauty of all these systems, is that it'll help you do all of that without having to really, from day one, think multi-channel, right? That's literally what it is. Unfortunately, it's called headless. That's it.
Yeah, I think maybe it's because I honed in on your analogy of having a store, having a pop-up, having a booth in a mall, and I feel like head full actually makes more sense, because now you have other people who are all involved, and the system needs to be understandable for whomsoever is running the store, whomsoever is running the booth, whomsoever is running the pop-up. Different levels of foot traffic, different accessibility. I think people approach booths differently than they do stores. So that's just that's my creative mind thinking.
We should definitely call it heartful. You're so happy that you have so many different booths and pop-up stores running. Yeah, we should change that.
It is a lot less violent, which in and of itself was not a detriment to me, but generally speaking, I think people would appreciate that. So I want to make sure that we talk about the no-code movement, because it is a great source of passion for you, and we've been kind of working our way towards this. So I think I understand what it is based off the name. It's more accessible than headless, but so what's your story with the no-code movement, and what's its importance in the in the world we're in?
One of my mentors once told me, and I was complaining that, hey, by the way, I don't know how to code. I've never coded. I work in the tech industry, but I'm not a techie. So I'm more the people side of the tech industry, I would say, and which is much needed. Trust me. So we would not have names like headless if I was coining it, for sure. I would call it heartful. But so in the early days, I had a mentor who I'm still in touch with him. He told me once that what is needed is more and more people like you who can think from the perspective of someone who needs that, not from the perspective of someone who is building that. Right. And when you think of someone who needs it, it's very different from the person who's building it, because the guy who's building it will think technical aspects and functions and specs and specifications and all of features and all of that. Whereas the guy who needs it will say, this is my pain. This is why I'm stuck. This is why it's hard. Right. And when we use any product, right, we always have an emotional connotation to it. It makes us we love products that make us feel comfortable and happy and make us feel like we achieved something. Right. So emotions are not away from what we do. right? Any product that we use we can't disconnect emotions away from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think like at some level, the whole no code philosophy is a lot about that. It's bringing the ability to create the solutions closer to the person who's feeling the pain rather than keeping it with the builders, right? So even if I'm feeling pain or you are feeling a pain, using technologies which are no code, we can solve that problem. We don't have to depend on like communicating that pain, translating it into specifications. Here's a product requirements doc and take it, right? We don't have to do that. So I think that's what no code's all about. And so it's very, very close to me. And I feel like really passionate about it. Like nobody has to push me for it. It is like, yeah, this is so important.
It's certainly, the passion for it. I can see that influence resonating through Mason, and one of the things we wanted to make sure that we mentioned too is just how pivotal this is for growth, especially in the D2C space.
It is, and because it just, you can't, when you are reacting to changes that you need to make your business work and to make your business grow, you can't be dependent on subject matter experts who can help you with 50 things. You need to be able to run your experiments and run your changes on your own to be able to see the impact. And I'm not saying that it's like take away code. That's not what I mean. And there is always space for everything. But on a day-to-day, when I'm running my business, I need to take decisions. And if I have to wait on a 48-hour cycle to actually get that decision implemented, maybe my business decision is already about to change, right? So it just brings so much agility to me as a business owner to actually run experiments, to grow my business. And it's so pivotal to growth.
So here's a story. I don't get to tell it very often, but I'm curious to get your take on it, and if there was a parallel in your own experience. So I spend a good deal of time doing audio editing for podcasts, largely, actually no, exclusively. And in doing so, I was a part of a lot of podcast editors communities mostly on Facebook. And we would have discussions, or we would see the potential for editing automation software where it would automatically cut out, say, or flubs or stuff like that. Yeah. And there were certainly automations in the editing space that, if not for, I wouldn't be able to do my job. Like if I had to manually silence out background noise, which, by the way, I did have to do for certain cases. The idea of making that sustainable was just it didn't exist. There was no way I could do it. So there was a degree of automation that made it accessible and made it easy, and it helped me focus on what it is I wanted to do well, which was pay attention to the flow of the conversation and only edit what was need to. Like, for instance, if somebody says, if everybody has vocal tics, some people, everybody says but then there's the where's, there's all sorts of flips. It's like one thing that I would do is say, look, I'm not going to edit out every last one of them because I'm not going to turn the guest into a robot, but there's a pattern. So for every 2 I cut, 1 stays. And in doing so, I kept the flow natural, but also more efficient for time. And frankly, I just enjoyed it, with your passion for this. The gamer in me enjoyed just catching these things, removing them, and ending it with a more efficient episode that was for better listening. And so I did have this fear that automating the work could go too far, and we would actually lose some of our ability to be more mindful, be more particular, be more artistic or creative towards it. So where I stand now is, yes, of course, there are things that are worth automating, but I still have one client that I do more for just to keep myself sharp rather than, relying on it to pay my bills. But I listen to the episode and I catch things little by little, and I enjoy it. And I do feel that it was worth it for the creative perspective. So I'll summarize all of this so I can make this into a digestible question for you. On the one hand, there is that fear of almost being rendered obsolete if the software can be so good at it, I don't actually have anything to do. But on the other hand, it was about a genuine concern for making the content as listenable as it can be. So yes. I throw that to your side. Can you identify a parallel in your own case where it felt like maybe you were losing a little bit too much of your own autonomy?
Yeah, no, I totally, hear you, right? And that is something I think for me and for my co-founder was always very important is that, hey, we totally, because I guess my co-founder is he's a true blood technologist. He's not a fake like me. So he's the guy who's been stuff,
You're in
right?
good company, don't worry.
I'm just a no-code evangelist. But anyway, so it's not really possible for for automation to be at a place, any kind of automation, I would say, to be at a place where it's like humans are not needed, right? And someone has to create that playbook and that framework in the first place, right? So you definitely need those, you still need that nuance, right? For example, in a simple example of a badge, right? Like you can say that the system can automatically create badges. It can too. I mean, if we can create that system, but you still would need, like, even if there is a system in this world that can create like 50,000 different badge designs, you'd still have that, Joseph versus Cost actually logging in and saying that these are the things that I like, these are the quirks that I don't like, right? So the second layer over here is that you also need that system to almost understand what is your aesthetics and what is your, special nuance that makes what you create you. Right. So I can say that, hey, like, the more I do a certain kind of edit, then if something starts understanding that's usually how they prefer it, right? So it's more about training a system rather than saying that the system's automating from day one, right? Like automating everything perfectly from day one. So the second layer to what I'm saying is that one is that it's not possible for every little thing to be automated to the personal aesthetic of someone, right? And hence, it's important to have levers where you can train someone. If you don't want to do it manually, is that you can train something that, hey, this is how I prefer it. Rather than, a very great example is Spotify, right? This is the kind of music that I prefer, and it learns over time. There's a bunch of automation steps, but it's learning over time. So it's not forcing you to love something. It keeps. So are you giving the ability to tweak the algorithm, right, based on what you are doing and whatnot? And I think the third layer over there is transparency. What is it that I'm tweaking? Like, I think that's the fear for me with social media. Like, I don't know what I'm tweaking. I don't see the algorithm. So I do something and something happened, boom, I have no idea. But I think in business tools, that's so important is the transparency. You did these and so this happened. You don't want it, you want it. The transparency, almost like of records of what you have done, what has it impacted, do you want to change it, not change it, like what are the levers that are available for you to automate, not automate, what is the, let's say if there's an AI behind it, what's it really learning and listening into as signals, right? So I think transparency is the third very important layer to always add. And in social media, unfortunately, that's not the lever that we get. But when you're thinking of making tools that augment people and to help them become better at their business, at their goals, at their work, you have to keep these three things in mind because you're not trying to sell their attention, right?
Well, I have to say that's an excellent answer. I mean, there's the three-layered answer to that. I mean, obviously, I don't ask a question expecting to know what the answer is. That's the point of the question. But I was actually quite impressed with that one. I wanted to ask you one more. So here's our final plan. Obviously, I got the closing question. I got one more fun one for you, and then I have one more question I'm about to ask, which is, what do you anticipate to be the future of both coding in general and also the no coding, and what do you see as the work that programmers are going to be facing in the next generations to come?
I think programmers want to do more, like with any other, a designer, for example, wants to do great design. They don't want to like edit a design to just change the copy every day. Like that's literally what a bunch of designers unfortunately have to do when they're doing creatives, for example. So it's the same for, developers, all makers. They want to make new things. They don't necessarily want to be operating something that they have made and editing it endlessly day to day. I see it like, if someone's helped me make like a landing page or something, and then I need to change the copy, I would rather do it myself. That poor developer will hate me if I ping him 100 times to just like change the copy, tweak it, and all of that, right? So I think it thinks that things like no code, low code helps a lot of the great work to be focused on, and leaving the operating, which are more important for me, for the business guy or for the user, right, rather than the builder, right? So it enables the user and to do the things that they need to do without having to pull in the builder. And I think the second thing is that it just makes products so much more. I think it just helps create more beautiful products. I think because if you're closer to the problem and you understand the emotion, you can create something that will fulfill that emotional need, I would say, in a way. And it'll help you with your work. It'll help you be more productive. It'll help you grow your business, but it'll also fulfill some sort of that emotional reaction that you have to that pain, right? And it's going to create more and more beautiful products, I would say, rather than just products which have been built by someone else and a very different kind of user has to like sort of just use it.
I have to say that one of the things that has continuously amazed me that I wasn't expecting, entering e-commerce, was I was expecting a lot more calculations, and I was expecting it to be a little bit more cold, and really, and there's an element of that. There does have to be, sometimes hard decisions have to be made, and hard data has to be analyzed with with an objective lens. But in spite of all of that, that misconception was broken down almost on day one. This is focusing on emotion, and it is focusing on helping people solve problems so that they can put their energy towards solving problems that are more rewarding. So you're describing the designers just making these simple changes to the copy, not particularly rewarding. So you can almost see like this is the kind of work that's probably going to end up being automated, because it's just so. If someone is doing it, unconsciously, then that is the kind of thing that ends up getting turned over to automation. So, I think there has to be an excitement towards it, and I think, and this was the apprehension that I had faced was, if coming back to my editing for a second, if the job is automated out, I'm going to have 2 hours a week to do work. And I can say with certainty, every time that I face that now, it has now been about the excitement for what is this going to do to free up my time and allow me to focus on more important things, coming back to the emotion, coming back to creativity, coming back to artistic, coming back to the point of being a human being in the first place.
Yeah, this is so true. So true. I totally feel you.
Excellent. All right. So fun question for you. So one of the things that you'd mentioned at the beginning was was it the importance of experiences, and this has always been a sticking point for me, because the kind of experiences that I tend to appreciate more are the ones that are a little good every time I access them, rather than something trying to blow me away for the first time and then losing its luster. So I mean, I don't know your experience in the gaming space, but I would recommend people look at Steam Big Picture. It's a interface that Steam that Valve has had, and the ambience, the color choices, the sound effects, everything that they use. Did it blow me away the first time I saw it? No. But there's a degree of appreciation that I have for it every time that I access it. So the question to you is, what are some of the experiences that have stuck out to you, and what do you find is more important? Is the consistency or the wow factor?
Yeah. I think consistency over. When I was younger, I used to think it's the wow factor, and actually it gets old very fast because it's so it's one time. Right. And everything that I love and I have stuck to, including softwares or apps or products that I use, are always the consistency and not the wow factor. Remember, I don't know if there was this, I forgot the name of that app, but it did this whole, you can click a picture, you upload it, and it sort of changes it into some sort of artwork. I totally forgot the name of that. It was trending like hell a few years back. And
I've seen it. I mean, I don't think I've seen it, but I've seen
yeah.
I know.
Prisma or
okay.
something like that.
Okay.
all it did was like, a picture of us, and then you can say Van Gogh, and you can say, whatever. I'm totally blanking out on names right now, but you can just select your Picasso or Van Gogh or whatever else masterpiece, and it just, changes it to look like that. It just died because it was a wow factor. It was one, and you won't ever continue for the rest of your life to keep uploading pictures to make it look like a Van Gogh painting, right? Like whatever. So that wow was so like wow. And then you just got bored with it. And then when you look at on the opposite end, you look at something like, I love Notion, and I love also Zoom. I think they have done a pretty well job. But look at Notion. It's always the little things. It's just that when you did this and then that popped up and you're like, that's nice. And it stuck with you. And they're consistently delivering that experience. Like, I can share it to the web. I can just do a right arrow and it becomes a toggle. Those little things that you discover and you get enamored, and it just makes anything that you do simple, makes it look good. All documents that you do look good, and you're good, right? So anything, I think it's always been like that. The things that are wow, they can't sustain because they have to like always meet that wow level consistently. Whereas those little nuggets, they add up to a far bigger wow longer term. Totally with you again.
Excellent. Well, that's everything that I got for you today. I have to say, this went according to plan. I wanted to start off, make sure we talk about the program, what it does, what it offers, and the importance of it, and then 10,000 foot view, 30,000 foot view, 50,000 foot view, 600,000 foot view. So I just want to say thank you for your time and for your expertise. And my final question is. Two parts. A, if there's any like a Chinese proverb or last bits of wisdom that you like sharing, feel free. No obligation. Feel free. And then let the audience know how they can make contact.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's so much wisdom out there, wisdom of the crowd, right? Like, and it's TikTok or Google or whatever. It's making it so much easier. But I think one thing that's stayed with me is that it's all about infusing emotions and stories into whatever you do, and stories are a way of infusing emotions, I would say. And I think if you are an e-commerce team or a merchant or D2C brand, you are already great at that, right? You have a brand, you have a story around your products, and why let it die by just having like a very boring Craigslist or something that's just not great enough, that doesn't bring you out as well. Like your social profile is probably doing amazing, but then people land in your store and it's blah or bland. And I think it's so important to kind of keep continuing your story. Don't let your stores be where your stories die. I love saying that. So I think that would be something that I would love to kind of remind them. And it's a lot of hard work to do that. And don't be afraid to sort of use different technologies that are out there. Give it a shot. It might just help you tell your story better and continuously say it. Right. So.
Yeah. And I think if and I don't want to point fingers, but if anybody tends to look at story as just an aesthetic, and I mean that in the meanest way possible, but it doesn't have resonance, it doesn't have depth, it doesn't have anything more important. Story and narrative is, put simply, how we characterize a passage of time. And if we don't value time, then there's really nothing left to value. So story, however embedded you might think it is, it's even further deep than that. So I'm with you on that. The importance of story. What was it? Your story is your story.
Your story is a story, and you shouldn't let your stores be where your stories die.
Excellent. Well, once again, one more thank you for the road, Kaus. It was great to have you here.
It was great to be here, and if anybody wants to reach out to me, you can always DM me or tweet at me, Manjita, Kmanjita, and Joseph will link it out. And I'm always on LinkedIn. So yeah, excited to be here. Thank you so much, and hope we get a chance to chat again.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Doors well open. And I should say thank you to Jamila John who connected us.
Yes.
I would hate to have turned off this recording. I forgot to do that. So To her, I say thank you so much for this connection, and feel free to send a few more my way. All right. So with that, to my audience, as always, it is an honor and a privilege to collect this information. Am I using it for my own benefit? You bet. And share it with all of you as well. So with that, take care, and we will check in soon.
On acquisition, right? Constant acquisition. And that was the only way that you actually were able to.
Hey, this is Joseph from eCommerce. Just wanted to thank you for being here and for giving this content your time and attention. I hope you learned something. I can say with certainty, I have learned something with every episode that I have done, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. There's a couple of things you can do to help us out. If you want to check out the audio content, we are available on all major podcast platform distributors. And while you're there, give us a 5-star review. It helps a lot. And while you're here on YouTube, there's a lot of things you can do to help out as well. It's not going to take very long. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button for this episode, and hit the notification bell so when we have new content for you, it's going to be at your doorstep ASAP. Lastly, this podcast is created by Debutify, the best Shopify template available. It is 100% free for you to start, and it can change your life. It can make you so much more free than you are right now. So if this episode wasn't enough to convince you, I think a few more might do the trick. So have at it.